Okay, so here's the plan. This is a map of Northern Europe. Right now, I'm here. And this summer, I want to sail all along the Norwegian west coast until I reach the Arctic Circle. Let's see how that goes. All good stories have a beginning, so let's start there with some background. I've now been living in Norway since 2007. 13 years ago, I started out here as a student and, improbable as it sounds, ended up as a commercial pilot. Over the years, I enjoyed all kinds of outdoor activities and still very much do. Even after all this time, I'm still impressed over Norway's scenery and try to enjoy it as often as I can. Fast forward to late 2019. I bought a sailboat. It was more or less a Christmas gift to myself, and at that point I knew very little about boats, let alone sailing. Luckily, my father-in-law is an experienced sailor and I could draw a lot on his technical experience. Well, since then I taught myself sailing. Mostly through trial and error, but I also had the help of a friend who does sailing and rigging for a living. And now I know enough to get myself into trouble. 2020 happened and I was out of a job. Suddenly I had a lot of time to repair and upgrade the boat, which I made use of. Much to the dismay of my partner, but that is another story. You can see some of the results in my other videos, but this is far from everything I've done. At least now I know every nook and cranny of the boat. During that summer I had the opportunity to make several extended trips, but Corona was of course always in the back of my head. Plans of sailing to Scotland or Denmark had to be shelved and we stayed inside Norway's territory. Mid to late 2020 it became clear that COVID was here to stay. One of the outcomes of this whole mess is that there's very little work for commercial pilots in the foreseeable future. And so suddenly the time I had available for cruising was extended greatly. At approximately the same time I got the chance to make a trip to northern Norway with Hurtigruten. Starting from Bergen all the way up to Kirkenes with the Norwegian post ships which traffic the route for over 100 years. So I got to see a fleeting glimpse of northern Norway and started toying with an alternative plan. Norway has over 100,000 kilometers of coastline in total. Additionally, there are over 200,000 islands, of which around 2,000 are inhabited, probably more so in the summer. That of course leads to countless guest harbors and anchorages all along the coast. So, in essence, starting in Bergen around May 2021, I want to sail north with my minimum goal of reaching the Arctic Circle. The weather should be fairly stable by then. The Norwegian geography is well suited for this endeavor, especially taking into account my somewhat limited experience. The North Sea can be vicious and the swell can persist for days after bad weather passes. Luckily, I can do most of my route on waters protected by islands, so hopefully I will not get too acquainted with rough seas. Anyways, in most cases I can retreat to more sheltered inshore waters if needed. Whether or not the weather will cooperate, well, that is an entirely different matter. I'll probably dedicate a whole episode to coastal weather forecasting in Norway. At least that is a topic I'm familiar with due to my flying background. So, stay tuned for that. On my way, I want to learn as much as I can about the Norwegian west coast. I'm quite familiar with the nature around Bergen and West London, but the further I get north, the less I've seen. At the moment, the only parts of northern Norway I'm intimately familiar with are the airports. Though I briefly visited some island communities, villages and cities there, this trip should definitely offer me some new insights. After my goal of reaching the Arctic Circle, I don't have any definite plan yet. Either I'm fed up and head home, or I might continue further up north. I will keep a slow pace and won't rush anything. My only time constraint right now is to be back before the nasty autumn weather sets in. But let's not get ahead of ourselves. In part I will sail solo, but my girlfriend and several friends already announced that they will keep me company on different legs, all depending on how much time they have. Now you know the outline of my plan. It is nothing too adventurous or extreme. For most experienced sailors the trip might even sound unambitious. Nevertheless, for me it is a challenge and something special. Because I'm bound to have some time on my hands, I want to document everything on video. The first part you are in fact watching already. If you want to come along for the ride, I cannot promise you anything. But I can imagine it will be interesting. But enough talk, let's take a look at my vessel of choice, that is our boat. So, and here it is, my home for the coming couple of months, our boat Syvsova. The boat is a Norship 35DS built in 2002 by Danish Buchwald Yards. It is the smallest in the line with an overall length of 35 foot. It weighs around 6.5 tons and has a draft of approximately 1.70 meters. The most prominent feature is the raised saloon with the big windows in front. More on that later. Other than that, it is a conventional sloop-rigged sailboat with roller furling Genoa and roller furling mainsail. I know that roller furling mainsails are a bit controversial, but it enables me to steer everything from the cockpit. There's virtually no reason for me to leave the cockpit to wrestle a sail into a reef. I can do everything from here, and I see that as a safety bonus. There are two large storage compartments here. They are quite deep and sometimes stuff is a bit hard to reach, but well, other than that, nothing you wouldn't expect. Now, let's take a look at the inside. So, once down the companionway, you see that I stand a fair bit higher than in other sailboats this size, and you get these nice big windows around here. Also, I can stand inside if the weather is too uncomfortable and still maintain a good lookout. I can even steer the boat from the inside using the course correction of the autopilot. Now, the boat is motorized by a Volvo Penta MD2030. It has 29 horsepower and a sail drive. It sits right under the companionway and is quite comfortable to work on. Everything is easy to reach and there is enough space around it. So, what do we have else? Well, we have ample space for seating. And on the other side we have the chart table and the electrical switchboard. The only thing I'm really missing here is a proper bookshelf. Due to the windows there is not very much space for that. Then here in the aft we have the guest cabin and it has enough space for 2 persons. If we go further forward, there is a little step down. It is only the saloon that is raised and far too many stumbled over this little step here already. The aft cabin and everything forward is on a conventional sailboat level. The galley is on the starboard side, equipped with a fridge, but we unfortunately don't have a freezer. 1 person can make food here comfortably, but it is too cramped for 2 in my opinion. Also not too much surface space for preparation. Then on the port side we have the head, and the last upgrade modification I made here is that I replaced the toilet with a manual one. Before there was an electrical toilet installed and well, it failed at the most inopportune time. I spare you the unsavory details of how I found out that it failed. And last but not least, the main cabin in front with plenty of space. Anyways, that was a short overview of our boat. If you want to see any system in detail or have any questions, leave them in the comments below. And just a few words on planning a trip during the still ongoing pandemic. This whole journey will be an exercise in social distancing. I will of course be following all local guidelines, and I assume that I will have a lot fewer social contacts during my trip than in my everyday life. Now, I don't have a schedule yet on how often I post a new video, but I'll do my best to do it regularly. For more frequent updates, you can also check out Instagram. You can also follow the progress north on marine traffic. This boat has AIS, and if you search for Syvsover, you see our current whereabouts. If you happen to live close by or know an interesting spot worth checking out, I'm more than happy for any local insight. So, I'll need to get back now at preparing for the trip. If you enjoyed this video and want to see more, as always, like and subscribe. Thank you for watching, and until next time, a few nautical miles closer to the Arctic Circle.